So, I know you're probably asking, what is dramaturgy, right? It sounds like a random word. Dramaturgy is a theory that was made by Irving Goffman. It was in sociology, anthropology, and as well as in theater. And it essentially is explaining to us why we're always performing. And so it doesn't flat out say this. This is my interpretation of it. You can find out for yourself. But essentially, there are two ways in which we interact and go through our experiences with people, right? We have our front stage and our backstage. So, our front stage experiences are like experiences where we are trying to live up to a standard, right? Let's say if we're at work or at a job of some sort that requires you, let's say corporate, right? You're at a corporate job. What do you have to present yourself as at a corporate job? Probably a suit, some type of button down, um, have your hair tamed. You feel me? But um, you have to live up to a specific standard and you have to present yourself in a way, speak about specific topics, don't break outside of a box, right? The front stage is something that is made up of all the standards, the social norms, the beliefs, the social codes, as well as the social forces that lead us to presenting an image to the world, right? You could even say, for example, a lot more times social media has been a front stage experience, like on things like Instagram, right? Instagram, people show the front stage, they show their highs, they show the best things of their life, but they don't show or share the lows and or the more vulnerable parts because that's the point, right? Like everyone just shows their best life, but they don't really share like into it. And so these are all different ways of explaining what a front stage is. It's just the image or how things look rather than how things are, which really goes into the backstage. And so the backstage is where we break down where those codes, where those social standards, those norms shouldn't exist, right? These are within our bonds, usually like familially, through friendships, platonic relationships, romantic, intimate. And so in these kind of spaces, we're able to present our true selves, right? And the reason is because there's no more pressure, right? You go through life with all these different pressures of how to act, how to behave, that largely a lot of them are not said. Like a lot of it is really just unsaid and just assumed. And so that said, you have all of these little unconscious things that are going through your head and they affect the ways in which you behave and or even move at times, right? Like don't bend all the way over like leaning over, squat down. I get it for health, but like at the same time, it's like there's a judgment that's made or a stigma towards that. So this is just going to say in the backstage, you don't have to worry about any of that. The backstage is where you can truly be yourself at versus where the front stage is where you have to show your front. And the reason Goffman referred to it as dramaturgy is because it's just like we're performing all the time. We're all on stage all the time. Like we don't give enough space for ourselves to really exist because of that. And this isn't even what Goffman said. This is just more going off on myself. We're always performing because we're always thinking like we have to live up to some type of standard. And I think also for any type of minorities, whether that be in any type like race, ethnicity, class, income, neurodivergence, like all of it, I think that this goes further upon. And it's just because you're not a part of the majority and you're of the minority, those standards are always something that are going to be conflicting towards, unless you can sacrifice parts of yourself or if you can give in, kind of lean in and find a balance between the two as well. And maybe you don't have to sacrifice, right? In that sense. And so, this said, it's more important that we get more backstage experiences than front stage because our whole lives are basically on a front stage. And it also, not only is it like living up to standards that are assumed and not enough actually like made, um, it kind of goes to the point where like a lot of this stuff that we follow and believe in isn't really real. They're just made real, like in that they're just socially constructed. And dramaturgy just shows you how socially constructed everything is. So, anyway, I believe it's super important to open up the backstage, and the only way you're able to really do that is by being vulnerable. Uh, to me, how that looks in a regular day to open up your backstage and not be on the front stage is by saying when someone says, "How are you?" telling them you're tired. Like just saying it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like don't try to deny or try to act like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Oh, how are you? I'm good too." What the fuck was the point? Like it's like personally, I not only am I just not here for it, but it's also just like the only way to open up the doors for relationships to transform and as well as for culture too. Because when we let ourselves experience that backstage more personally, it allows us to experience the backstage interpersonally. But if we're always presenting ourselves and treating ourselves like we're on stage and on camera, and we have to be looking better than we actually are feeling or treating ourselves, then we're not going to get anywhere. And so I think that culture will do a lot better internally and externally if we were to stop all the performing to a degree, right? Because it's not to say that it doesn't matter how things look, but a shit is still a piece of shit if you dress it in a toilet or with a suit. So, dramaturgy. It contains your front stage, which is the expectation, the image that you present yourself out to the world, that business brands present themselves out to the world with, that are living up to certain standards, policies, assumed norms, and codes. Whereas the backstage is where you get the real deal, which is where you get the behind the scenes aspects, right? Of a person, people, brands, and business. Peace to you. I hope you have a great day. I catch you. Actually, speaking about it in reference to this, these videos, man, when I don't actually think about it and like think the whole front stage experience of living, it's so much easier to record videos, especially like more frequently, like because sometimes we overthink what it has to be, and like myself included, like it doesn't have to be much. I can literally just get my phone and just record. You feel me? Love to you.